happy Imbolc, everybody. This is Ariel Gatoga, and this is Thrilling Thursday here at Ariel's Corner. And we are on, what's today? The 2nd of February. So happy Candlemas, happy Imbolc. This is that time of year when we're in the dead of winter, if you will, but there's a promise of spring. The days are becoming longer, and we start to see that light of spring. And it's a beautiful, beautiful time, especially if we are dealing with any darkness in our lives, meaning any feeling of lost, like we're lost in any way, or we have any issues that we don't seem to be able to find our way out of. We can look to that coming spring. We can look to that light to guide us now. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. And we are streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. Moderating today on YouTube are the lovely Dre and the lovely Heather. Moderating on Twitch is the lovely Deline. Thank you so much, moderators. And I so appreciate all of you for being here today. Let's see, we have all kinds of cool stuff going on. You know that we do have a Discord server. If you like Discord, or even if you don't know what Discord is, it's a lot of fun. And it's a great place to have some conversations and discussions, and it's a great thing. And Dre has made a beautiful community for us over there, and so we have all kinds of different channels. So it's really well organized. I think in some ways it's many ways it's a lot easier to keep our discussions on track than it is over on the Facebook group. But the Facebook group is nice too, and that's another place that you can join with the community. Discord server, Facebook group. We also have a forum on our website. It's not my favorite. It's not my very favorite way to take care of things, but it is there. The reason why I'm not in love with it is just because it's just a clunky forum. So, but we have it there because sometimes people don't want to be part of any kind of social network. So we have it there so that people can get their questions answered and get their community, feel like that they're involved with the community. So all that to say that you're never alone. We are there for you. Now, we have all kinds of beautiful courses. Well, I don't know if they're all beautiful, but I do my best. Free courses, anyway. They're free. Free lectures, free guided meditations, free booklets, free on our website, ariels-corner.com. That's right, Ariel's Corner with a hyphen.com. So avail yourself to all the cool stuff that we have. Remember that we are here 6 days a week live. Wednesday through Sunday are magic streams, and those start at 10:15 a.m. Tuesday starts a bit earlier because of my work schedule, and that's at 9:45 a.m. Tuesday is Tarot Tuesday, and so we usually have a tarot lesson. Except for the first Tuesday of the month, we do have personal readings. So if you want to get your cards read by me, make sure that you show up this Tuesday, which will be the first Tuesday in February. Get your name in the queue right away, and we will get you going with your own private reading. Well, it's not private, but personal reading. All right. I think that's it from my... Oh, and then if you have any questions today, you can put them right in the chat thread, whichever chat thread you're on, Discord or, Twitch or YouTube. And I will be able to answer them before the stream is up because we do not have a premiere scheduled for today because I didn't get it finished. But I'm maybe a third of the way finished. So I hope to have that up for premiere tomorrow after our rosary stream tomorrow morning. And that's about it for my announcements. So if you are in a place where you can do so safely and appropriately, please close your eyes and begin to take some long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and mind. With every exhale, feel like you're able to let go of all tension in anything that you do not want. Inhaling peace and light, exhaling, letting go of all tension. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust. It easily and safely burns away everything that is unlike itself, leaving us pure and secure, free and happy. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a god and goddess, a mother and father. Into this sacred space, we also invite the presence of our teachers, our guides, our angels. We dedicate the time that we spend together to each other and to them, and we ask that we be guided and led as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, more loving people. And if it's appropriate for you to do so, you can join me in out loud saying the words, "Blessed be." I have an 18-week course in beginning witchcraft called A Witch's Primer. And if you have not taken that course, you may want to take a look at it. In lesson 15 of that course, we deal with the concept of building a thought form. Building a thought form. And that's what I would like to discuss today, is building a thought form. Anytime we work spells, we are in effect building a thought form. If you are burning a candle, you are doing that in order to focus your mind so that you can build a thought form. If you are working with a bag of herbs to make a charm bag, you are in effect using that as a focal point and a fine-tuning of the energy of your thought form. If you are working any kind of magic, any kind of spell, it must have the building of a thought form included in it for it to be effective. Now, sometimes we build those thought forms and we don't realize that's what we're doing. And so we can be very effective just by following the directions of a spell because the building of the thought form is inherent in the way that a good spell is constructed. But it's good to know what you're doing so that you can get it done rather directly, rather than doing it in a circuitous manner, circuitously. One of the first things we teach you how to do in A Witch's Primer is called grounding and centering. And this is a wonderful exercise because what this does is it allows us to connect to a sense of power that is greater than ourselves. In other words, we're not depleting our own energy when we're raising power. Very frequently in the craft, we will ground and connect to the power of the earth itself. And that's a wonderful way to do things because it allows you to feel stable and secure while at the same time empowered. So the way that we do the grounding and centering very frequently is feeling like we are growing roots out from the base of our spine, deep into the earth, connecting with the power of the earth that we visualize as a white ball of light at the center of the earth, the core of the earth. And we begin to use our breath to facilitate the drawing up of earth energy into our bodies. And then that energy that we draw up not only purifies us, but it also empowers us. And then we can direct that energy. And I have a lesson on raising and directing energy as well as grounding and centering. And that's all part of A Witch's Primer. Now, another exercise that we have is called the Orb of Light. And it's something that we recommend that you do daily. And so that's taking this energy that we're raising and allowing it to build a thought form around us. And it's like a globe or ball of light. And what it does is it has many functions, but the primary function is protection and empowerment and purification. It also can be a vehicle through which we do things like astral project and astral travel. You can think of Glinda the Good Witch. She traveled around in her orb of light in that movie, The Wizard of Oz. It's funny because that's similar to what the orb of light actually looks like and functions as. And so when you work with that orb of light and that grounding and centering on a daily basis, you start to notice that your aura gets purer and more refined. You feel more protected and safe. You feel more relaxed, and you're more able to focus. Now, with all of those skills that you are gaining through these training exercises that we give you, you also are very primed to build thought forms. And there's many ways to build a thought form. A lot of times, like I said before, you build thought forms without even realizing you're doing it. In fact, a lot of our problems are basically thought forms that we have built inadvertently through our days here. And we are interacting with the effects of those thought forms. You can think of thought forms as being big balls of energy that are programmed for a specific purpose. So if you were raised to believe that you were a bad person, maybe you had an abusive sibling or an abusive parent that constantly told you how horrible you were and what a burden you were, and wish you were never born, those kinds of things. It's a horrible thing to tell a child, right? But the child then takes those ideas and builds thought forms, because that's kind of what we are here to do. We are thought form manufacturers. That's sort of what we do. And in the craft, we learn how to do it consciously. But anyway, so if you build those thought forms based on those ideas that I'm a burden and I don't belong here and I'm not good enough and I hurt people, my existence is painful for others, those kinds of decisions that you make about yourself in the world based on those ideas that were given to you as a very young child, well, those thought forms are very alive, well, and active, and you are interacting with those thought forms on a day-to-day basis. And those thought forms become such that you don't recognize that they're there, very much like you don't recognize that you are wearing cologne after a few minutes. You can spray cologne on, and you don't smell it anymore after a couple minutes, but everybody else can smell it, right? And it's the same idea here with your thought forms. You don't even recognize them as what they are because they're so normal to you. So it's very important to understand that part of what we need to do in working magic is disassemble thought forms. And a lot of that is done through work like banishing and things like that. So many times when we're trying to banish a problem, we don't realize that there's a thought form attached to the problem, especially if it's a problem that tends to be recurring. So I get a lot of people emailing me or commenting on videos and things like that saying, I need money, I need money, I need money. I'm always broke, nothing ever works for me financially. And they tend to go from spell to spell to spell to spell, trying to kind of get rescued from financial crisis after financial crisis after financial crisis. And ultimately, that's not a very effective use of our magic, is it? Because what we want is to do two things. We want to, disassemble the thought forms that are recurring, that bring us those results that are unwanted, in this case, financial problems. And then we want to build new thought forms based on what we do want. And in this case would be financial abundance. So rather than approaching your magic or your spell casting as some sort of a rescue formula to rescue you from crisis after crisis after crisis, a wiser way of approaching things is to look and find the offending thought form, to disassemble it, to completely annihilate it, to starve it out, to not feed it any more of your energy, and then to replace that with a new desired thought form. And there's so many different ways to do this. We'll go over a few of them. But if you are involved in any of my courses, not just A Witch's Primer, but the whole trilogy of courses that I teach for non-denominational witchcraft, there's an intermediate course after A Witch's Primer called Witchcraft Beyond the Basics. And then there's another one after that called Advancing Your Craft. There's a lot of work in those courses that disassemble thought forms and install new thought forms. And another course that does that is specifically toward money is called the Prosperity and Money Magic course. That's a very intensive course. Luckily, it's only 3 weeks long because it's a boot camp. It's almost impossible to completely do everything perfectly in that course, and it's meant to be that way. It's sort of meant to just sort of blast your negative thought forms away, just out of sheer frustration almost. And it really does work. It really does work if you work it. And sometimes it's a good idea to repeat that particular course several times until you really start seeing the results that you want. But the point of all of this is that the first thing we want to do is find the problem that we want to heal and recognize that there is a thought form that's creating the problem. So we want to banish that thought form and then establish a new thought form in its place. Okay. So and very often those two things can be done simultaneously. So some of the ways that you can do this is by first looking within to find what your thoughts are. Your thought forms are fed by your habitual thought patterns. So you can take out a piece of paper. This is the most direct way to do it, is to take out a piece of paper and write down on the top of a clean sheet of paper a question for you that addresses whatever the problem happens to be. So let's just stick with the money problem since I brought it up, and since that's what a lot of people have been requesting help with. So you can start by writing a statement on the top. I said a question, but it's really a statement that you need to complete. You can say, the reason why I don't have enough money is, and then just complete the sentence with the first thought that comes out of your mind. Total stream of consciousness. Don't edit it. It doesn't matter if it's correct. You just write it down, and then you ask the question again. Or you say the statement again. You complete the statement again. You say, the reason why I don't have enough money is, and then you write it down again, and you write the first thought that comes to your mind again. And then you do that again. The reason why I don't have enough money is, and you complete the sentence with the first thought that comes to your mind again. And you do that again and again and again. I try to make sure to have people do it until they fill up a whole page in a notebook. And trying to do this with actual pen or pencil and paper rather than on an electronic device, it really seems to help to actually write it out if possible. And if you can't get a whole page, at least go until you get a lot of sort of repeating ideas. So for instance, you might write out, the reason why I don't have enough money is, money's hard. The reason why I don't have enough money is, I'm no good at money. The reason why I don't have enough money is, I'm stupid. The reason why I don't have enough money is, I don't deserve it. The reason why I don't have enough money is, I hate my mother. I mean, you never know what's going to come up. You just let it come up. You don't edit it. And so many times, some of these thoughts that come up are so wild. You're like, whoa, where did that come from? But you just write it down anyway. And you try to stay out of your way. And you just regurgitate it on that piece of paper. And some of those thoughts are just noise. Some of those thoughts really don't indicate a thought form, and that's fine. Some of that's just static. But you'll notice when you go through the list, when you just read through it, there's a few of those ideas that are going to have some emotion attached to them, where you read it and you think, oh no, that can't be true. Or, ooh, there's some sort of response. There's some sort of visceral reaction from your gut. And when you get that, you say, okay, there's a thought form there. There's a thought form there that needs to be disassembled. And I need to replace that with something that I do want. And the first that first step of just getting it out on paper is sometimes enough to just be aware of it, and then have your awareness itself be the thing that disassembles the thought form. But frequently you need a little bit more help than just that. So what I recommend, the fastest way, and it's not as witchy as people want it to be, but the fastest way to handle those negative thought forms is to just flip them. We call them waning moon flips in the Beyond the Basics course. I'm sorry, I think it's on the Advancing Your Craft course. They're waning moon flips, but you can do it even during the waxing moon. It's fine. You look at the thought that seems to be one of the offending thoughts attached to a negative thought form that's causing you the results that you do not want, and you just flip it on its head for a second. So even if it seems weird, so like for instance, let's say your list has the thought, I'm no good with money. Just flip it around. Just say, I'm good with money. Now, that's not the end of the story, but just saying that, just by flipping that around, starts to take some of the charge away from the thought form. And you go through the next thought. Maybe it's, like I said, I hate my mother. You can just say, I forgive my mother. Even if you don't believe it, just say it. Just write that down right next to it. I just have like another column to the right, or maybe another list completely, where I just respond to all of those negative thoughts by flipping them around. And then once I have a list of those flipped thoughts, I read through that list. Now, some of those thoughts aren't going to be good enough. So I'm good with money, and you think, well, I'm not good with money. Okay, so maybe I'm good with money wasn't the right way to handle that, but you can say something, try it from a different angle. I'm willing to have money be something that works for me. I'm willing to have money work out for me. I'm willing to see this in a different way. You just tell yourself that, and you come up with another thought. Well, I'm getting better and better with money every day. That one might fit in pretty well. It's not going to be able to be as rejected as easily. That might actually help to disassemble that thought form. I'm getting better and better with money each and every day. Money is evil. It might be one of the things that came up. Well, money is good. Then you think, well, but that didn't work. I don't believe that. Well, money is an idea, and all ideas are sacred. That might work. Money is an idea in infinite intelligence, in the mind of infinite intelligence, and all thoughts in the mind of infinite intelligence are good. Money is simply a means of exchange, and I'm willing to see money differently. There's all kinds of ways that you could rephrase that so that it starts to feel, and that's the bottom line. The key is how you start to feel with that. You know that your thought form is disassembling if you start to get less charge, emotional charge from it. You start to feel better about it. Maybe it's not healing the problem, but it's starting to get less of you're starting to get less of a visceral response or reaction when you look at that thought. Okay, so now the other thing you can do once you find some of those offending thoughts is, rather than just going through and flipping them around, is if you find a thought that seems to be the biggest one, like really, really a big one, like maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm not good enough with money, or I'm a bad person, or something like that, that you really feel like, wow, this is a kingpin. And you can tell by the way you feel, this is a kingpin thought. Then you can actually build a banishing ritual based on that thought. Not so much I'm banishing poverty, because that doesn't always attack the thought form. Because remember, poverty or financial problems and issues are often just a manifestation of a thought. And the thought form really has something different than just money attached to it. Like, for instance, I'm not good enough, or I'm a bad person, or I deserve to be punished, or whatever the thought that you uncovered is. So you want to banish the thought form. You want to disassemble the thought form, not necessarily its manifestation. Right? That's where a lot of people get messed up. They think, well, I'm having a financial problem, so I'm going to banish the problem. Well, that can have some effect, but it's not going to have long-lasting effect unless you are able to banish or disassemble the underlying thought form, which may or may not directly be addressed by its manifestation. Hopefully that makes sense. I hope I'm saying that clearly. Sometimes things manifest in ways that don't seem to be having to do with what the thought that's causing them are. For instance, if you think I'm a burden to everyone, you won't necessarily recognize when you have a financial problem that has anything to do with you feeling like you're a burden unless you go through a process to figure that out, to find that out, because one doesn't necessarily seem to have to do with the other, right? You think, oh no, this is just purely a financial problem, when it's not. When it's just the way that it's coming out, the way it's just manifesting. It's your ego's way of trying to punish you for being a bad person, is to make sure that you're always stuck in poverty, right? So that's the first step is to find some kingpin thoughts, and it takes some time, it takes some work. You need to uncover these ideas, and like I said, we have all kinds of courses that help you through all of this. But once you find that, sometimes just turning the thought around isn't enough. It's better to actually build a banishing ritual around that. And there's all kinds of ways to do banishings, but it doesn't need to be too super complicated. I tend to work on the waning moon when I'm doing banishing of thought forms. And usually what I do is I have some sort of a symbol on my altar, maybe a talisman or a piece of paper with the thought written out, and maybe a candle representing the idea or representing its banishment. So oftentimes for banishing, I like to use black candles. Those are nice for banishing because I just think of it as like a black hole sucking that thought away from me, right? And I just allow myself to confront that thought in my banishing ritual and allow myself to release it, allow myself to let it go, and recognize that through that, it's like it's like it's being killed. It's like it's dying off. Through that power that's where death is our friend, right? To remove from us that which doesn't serve us. And as that feels like it's letting go and I'm releasing it, then I let that candle burn down and out all by itself. Now, you don't want to just walk around with a void, because you're just going to fill that void up. You're just going to fill up the void, and usually you'll fill up the void with whatever happens to be habitual, because your mind is a lot smarter than you think it is. It's a lot more active than you think it is. And your mind is bigger than your conscious mind. So if you're successful at banishing a thought form and you don't have a new thought form to replace it, then you're just usually going to fall back into a similar old thing. That's why New Year's resolutions rarely ever work, because you're going to go with what's habitual. And what we want to do is completely annihilate that habit of thinking that's causing this problem for you. So we've banished the thought, and now we need to install a new thought form. Now, this is often well done right away. So one of the problems that we can have with working with the moon is there's so much time lapsing from one thing to the next, right? So I like to work this kind of thing on the waning moon, but at the same time, I like to have the new moon be ready for me. So many times I'll work a banishing like this, where it's a major thought form, over a period of time on the waning moon. So I'm constantly letting it go. And then by the time the moon starts waxing again, I can start building that new desired thought form. Now, the way I build a new thought form can vary depending on the problem, but some of the ways that I do that is to actually feel like I have a power of choice, to recognize I can choose any thought I want to think. A lot of times we don't realize that we have a choice. But, since I'm not any longer having to deal with financial problems because I banished that thought form, what do I want? Well, I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose what I want. Now, I want it to be within my sphere of influence so that I know that it's going to happen. But what I want, instead of that financial problem, and I always have something very tangible that I want. I want this kind of an income. I want this amount of money or better in my life. This is what I want. I want it so that I can actually check it off a list. I'll know when that thought form has manifest, because it's something that's tangible. It's something that's I can record it. I can check it off. I can say, yes, this happened. And so the new thought form, even though ultimately I want it to be permanent and sort of like a permanent battery of, in this case, prosperity, the first time I'm installing it, I want to see some specific results attached to that thought form. So a specific amount of money, or a specific a salary, or a specific sort of income. That's what I want. And so then what I do is and there's so many different methods, and we teach you many of them, but I have some sort of method of being clear with what my goal is. And like I said, I like it to be very tangible, but at the same time being open and receptive to the way that it can manifest. So not only am I going to be specific about what I want I want a 20% increase in my salary or my income or more. That's specific enough. But I avoid saying how and by when and the ways and the means. I leave that up to the wisdom of infinite intelligence, the wisdom of my deep mind. And I ask myself, what are those things what is that going to bring me? What are the essences of that desire? What is that going to bring me? Is it going to bring me relief? Is it going to bring me happiness? Is it going to bring me peace? What are the qualities? Why do I want this? It's not just for money's sake. Money is not enough of a impetus for me to try to get anything going. Money, people think that that's what they want is money, but it's really what money is going to bring them. So whatever it is that you're building this thought form for, it's really imperative that you find out what the essences of your desire are. What are the qualities, the spiritual qualities that it's going to bring you? What's it going to feel like when that happens, right? So I have to plan all this out before I start the actual building of the thought form. I have to think about all these things so that when it comes time to do the new spell, where I'm actually building the thought form in whatever method I'm using, that I'm really clear. And the easiest way to build that thought form is to just ground and center, like we just talked about, raise the energy, like with the orb of light. I just bring my hands out in front of me. I just cup my palms in front of me to about like I'm holding maybe a small soccer ball or something like that. And I start feeling like I'm directing energy right outside the palms, right through the palms of my hands, right through the palms of my hands. And I color that ball of energy with whatever color seems appropriate to my desire. And as I see that ball of energy forming, I start to feel the feelings of what I want to feel like when this thing manifests. And if possible, I start to see myself in a scene that proves to me that thing has happened. Now, some people say they can't visualize, so don't worry about that if you don't think you can. But just intend, if you will, know that the ball of energy is being formed, that it is the color that you say it is, even if you don't think you can see it. And you start feeling and knowing that this has already happened on the astral plane. And you're just programming this form, this ball of energy. You're programming it by just feeling what you want to feel, seeing what you want to see. And you can even have a little chant or affirmation. I think that's very powerful to just tell it what you want it to do. And this is how you build a thought form. It's really simple. And then once you feel like that ball of energy is pretty strong, again, whether or not you think you can see it, once you feel like that's really strong and it's been programmed with the feeling and the idea of what you want, and you've spoken to it and told it what you want it to do, either through a rhyming incantation or just by talking to it, then you have to let it go. And you let it go. And some thought forms you can actually put in a particular place. Like say you're trying to protect your home or your business. You can actually have a thought form go like into a charm, and then you hang the charm up. Or you could, if you don't want a charm, you could just see that ball of energy moving over like all around your house, surrounding your entire house with this energy. And you know that it's there, that you've installed it. It's there, and it's as permanent as you want it to be. Those ideas that you were banishing earlier, they've been plaguing you for years and years and years. So you've proven to yourself that you can have long-standing thought forms. You know that that's possible. So if it can happen with something you don't want, then it can also happen with something that you intentionally build, that it can last there until you decide to disassemble it. But if you're not putting it in a particular place, then you just let it go. I just let it go. I see it rising up. Like if you're in a circle, I see it rising up the cone of power. But if you're not in a circle, I just see this ball of energy rising up like maybe a balloon or something like that, moving up and into what I'm assuming. And when I see it rising up, I don't believe that it's going up into the sky. I see that rising up as symbolic of it going up into the causative plane, where it then starts to work and bringing me results. And it's just there. And it's there either until my specific time-sensitive goal has been reached, in which case the thought form automatically will disassemble itself because it's no longer needed, or if it's something like just general prosperity, even though I have that time-sensitive goal, I have been feeding this thought form with my ideas of with my ideas of prosperity, so that thought form can then keep generating new results and new results and new results. And every time I need more money or desire more money, I can go back into that same idea of that thought form that's there and give it a new request, a new idea. And that prosperity thought form can be something that's perpetually fed because I've established it. I've installed it. I've said so. Now, like I said, you're going to be building thought forms whether you like it or not. You may as well build thought forms consciously and find the thought forms which are causing problems and banish them or disassemble them, remove them. And really, that's it. That's all. All magic is based upon thought forms. Removing thought forms that are creating results that we do not want, and establishing and installing thought forms that create results that we do want, and not doing the building of these thought forms accidentally, unintentionally, and unconsciously, but work these thought forms intentionally, purposefully, and magically. So I invite you to practice with thought forms, both banishing things you do not want and creating things that you do want. And don't even so much worry about the moon phase at first. Don't get tripped up, because that's what happens is people say, oh, well, now the timing is going to be wrong, so I don't know, I shouldn't do this. It's fine. It's fine. Just get the thought form working first. You can fine-tune the timing later. Just get the thought forms going first, and you can, as you grow and gain more experience in your magic, you can really enhance them with the timing, doing things like working with the days of the week and the phases of the moon and the planets and all that stuff. That really, really does fine-tune things and give them even more power. But start out just with the thought forms themselves. So it's going to be a fun week for many of you to start looking for thought forms that are creating results that you do not want so that you can let go of them, and then also establishing and creating thought forms that you do want. Please listen to the lesson on building thought forms in A Witch's Primer, and also refer to my other courses for even more information on how to let go of thought forms you do not want. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It's been such a pleasure, and I will see you soon. Blessed be. Let's see if we have any questions before we end. Okay, I do have one. Ariel, let's say I want to make a talisman on Thursday and I don't have blue or white, and all I have is red, and I want to use it. Can I just use that? I don't know red what. You mean candle? You can always just use a white candle. But if you're doing a talisman for Jupiter, you don't want to use red because then you're mixing your symbols. So it's better not to use the color of whatever it is that you're talking about rather than using the wrong color. So you can just do something either with a white candle or just get rid of the candle. Or if it's the inks in the paper, then just use regular white paper and a pen. Most pens you can find blue ink. Most regular writing pens you can find blue ink. But if you can't, just use black or just use a pencil. It's better to not have whatever it is than to try to put a round peg in a square hole. So if you're trying to work with Jupiter, either work with Jupiter's colors or just don't work with color if you don't have the right color of whatever it is that you're talking about. Because I'm not sure when you say you don't have blue or white, I don't know what that means. I think you're talking about candles. You can just not use candles, do something else. Because you don't need a candle to charge your talisman. You can. I like to use candles to charge my talismans, but if I don't have one, I just don't use one. And I just charge it with my mind. Hopefully that helps. Thank you so much to the amazing moderators. Today we had Dre, Heather, and Deline, and we will be back for a Witch's Rosary tomorrow, so I hope you can join us for that. And then tomorrow we should also have a premiere on a Kabbalah lecture, so hopefully I get that finished in time. Thank you again. Much, much love and many, many blessings.